So apparently, this guy knows how to drone fish. Might have to go and have a chat to him.
Hi everyone, my name is Jeremy here from Complete Angler in Netherlands. Today I'm going to talk to you all about drone fishing. Drone fishing has become really popular. It's an emerging market, and it just means that you can get your bait or lure out a lot further than your conventional casting. And it's also for people that don't own a boat. So today I'm going to talk to you about rods, drones, reels, line, rigs, pretty much everything you need to know about drone fishing and how to get started. So first of all, I'll talk about the reels. This Shimano Saragosa 14,000 is an extra high gear model, which I like using because it just means that you can retrieve the line a bit quicker. So once you're out, say 300, 400 meters and you haven't had a bite, just means that you can get your rig back quicker, and then you can rebait it and fly it out a lot more efficient than a power gear model. And I've also found that the 14,000 size holds the optimum line of about 600 meters of P4, which I'll talk about later. This price point is about $400, so it's about your mid-level reel. Moving on, I've got a overhead reel, which is quite popular because it allows you to be in direct contact with the line, as opposed to a spin reel, which has the roller bearing and you've got to flick open the bail arm. So over here, I've got a Speedmaster 16 2-speed. 2 speeds are good because you can change it from when you're fighting into low gear, which just gives you more torque, and then when you're wanting to wind the line back quicker, you can just put it into high gear. So these are quite popular because they hold a lot more line than spin reels on average, and they're a bit smaller. So that's a Shimano Speedmaster, and they're about 400, so that's a mid-range reel as well, pretty much the equivalent to the Saragosa in an overhead version. And then to the right, I've got a budget reel, which is a Penn 850 SSM. So these reels are about 110, and they hold a lot of line, and they're just an entry-level reel. Nothing too special about it, but they're pretty bulletproof and hold a lot of line, which is what you want for drone fishing. Moving on to the rod selections. Here I've just got a Daiwa Sensor Surf 13 foot. Nothing really in particular about this rod, but this is something that I would use personally for drone fishing. Basically, you want a 10 to 20 kilo rod, and about, say, between 10 foot and 13 foot. The reason being is that you want that extra length because when your line is out so far, you want it outside of the initial surf break. So that when your line's out really far, you got a bowl in your line, and once the surf break keeps touching the line, you're going to pull your sinker and your line's not going to be tight. So I like to have a long length, so that will kind of negate that. It also helps to have a long rod tube as well, where you can put the top of the dunes, which is really good for getting out of the initial surf break. Also, you want a harder tip, or more stiff tip, just because once you load up the rod with the sinker and the grapnel sinker, you don't want it to be too soft, because otherwise it will pull. Now, moving on to line selection. So I've got 3 different lines here, all of different diameters, which I've tested myself personally, and I have decided that the P4, which is the 60-pound Siglon, this is the exact line I use, is the most optimum, and I'll explain why. So once you're out and you're about 300 meters, right? So this one here is a P5, this one's P6, and this one's P4. Now, a lot of people, when they come in here and they ask me questions about what line to use, and they always go to the heavy stuff, the P6, because they reckon it's just stronger, which is true. But if you can imagine your line's out, say 300 meters, right? The heavier your line is, the more drag it's going to hold in the water. So your line is actually bent like that. So basically, when a fish takes it, it's got that much time before it actually goes straight. Even though your rod tip's loaded up, you're still going to have that the drag of the water from the heavier line, because it will sink quicker. So let's say that's going to be a P6. A P5 won't have as much drag as a P6, but you also don't have as much line capacity. And I found that the P4, you get the best of both worlds with the strength and also how straight it is in the water, which is very important for drone fishing. Moving on, talk about the actual rig itself. So This rig, I hand tie these, and these are the drone rigs. So basically what it is a pretty much a double paternoster, but the first paternoster is a loop which goes to your drone. Different drones have different attachments. I've got a Mavic Pro which I use a sky clip, so it's just 2 ball bearings which you can just clip the line into, and you can set the tension for release. And it goes down to, I always like using circle hooks because your line's out so far, there's no way you can strike the rod, and also because of the drag of the line in the water, your line's never straight. So I prefer having circles because the fish kind of hook themselves. And that goes down to a really, really long leader. So it's pretty much a sacrificial bit of line just to your sinker. So that's about 3 meters. And I found that the longer you have it, the less of a pendulum effect you have on when you're flying your drone out. So basically that means that your drone will fly straighter, and it will reduce the chances of it falling out of the sky. So those are the rigs there. Alright, now I'll talk to you about sinker selection. So typically when you're drone fishing, you won't be fishing when the condition's really rough. So I tend to stick to these 2 size sinkers, or if I have a double bait rig, I would choose a heavier sinker, which is one of these. Now it is crucial that you need to have a grapnel sinker. So a grapnel sinker pretty much is, it could be metal, or it could be bits of hard plastic. And all it is you can clip it in. Some have clips, some are permanently set. So that's when it's set, when you clip it all in. So this one's a Gemini one. So basically once you put it in the sand, it kind of hooks into the sand, and then it keeps your line straight. And then once you have a fish on, you can pull it and it comes undone. So there's a few different types, but it's very crucial to have a grapnel sinker. Moving on from the sinkers is bait selection. Now I've got 4 different types of bait here. I've got Oki, I've got blue mac, herring and mullet, and I've used every single one of these baits, but for different applications. So if I'm going for, say, snapper in the metro area, I would tend to go mullet, herring or blue mac. Blue mac if I think that it's not much activity because it's really smelly, same as the mullet. But mind you, I've found that if you use mullet or blue mac, you get more your bycatchers such as shark, which can be a good thing or a bad thing depending on what you're targeting. So if I'm just going for herring, just going for snapper, I find that herring is really good. So that's what I use pretty much 80% of the time, just half a herring on the snelled rig. And if I'm going say down south, I'd go something like your Oki, which is good for your jewies, and then your breaksea cod, just something a bit different. So I'll use that on the paternoster as well, but I only limit this to when I'm going down south or up north, away from the metro area. Now, a misconception with drone fishing is, you think that you're getting out 300, 400 meters, that you're just going to catch fish because, you can't cast that far. But with all areas of fishing, there's, high traffic areas, just like it would be, for, cities and all that. You can imagine the ocean is if it's like land, there's going to be desert areas or high populated areas. So just because you're going out 300, 400 meters doesn't mean you're always going to catch fish. So that's what I learned when I first started drone fishing. So I've kind of devised certain areas to look for and what to look for. So I'm going to show you now on just Google Maps. So this is how I started really. So, let's say you're fishing in this area here, which looks pretty good. You've got a channel going in there and you've got a lot of adjacent reef. Good rule of thumb is you always drop just before the reef. So I'd be dropping in places like here. That looks like a good place for a dewie because that's about 400 meters out. So that's pretty much the minimum distance to get like your dewies and your other demersals such as boldies. Pinkies tend to go in a bit closer. So if you want to go for pinkies, I'd go somewhere around there, even up to there. They just kind of patrol up and down the beaches. But yeah, as a rule of thumb, you always want to go right near the reef, not on top of the reef. Sometimes that does happen and then you just get snagged, but near the reef and structures like that, you're in a good zone to catch any sort of fish really. So that's the areas that I'd be looking for when I'm going drone fishing, and it would maximize your chances of catching fish exponentially. That concludes today's video on everything drone fishing. I hope each of you have taken away one word of advice and you can use it for your next drone fishing adventure. So feel free to message us on any of our socials, or come in store or call us. Happy to chat about anything drone fishing related, and